Hello, everybody. Welcome. In today's activity, we are going to be exploring budget constraints using Excel. Our end goal is to produce something like this. We will have a table and we will also have a graph showing our budget constraints. Before we get started, I want to make sure everyone understands how to be able to access Excel. The first thing you want to do is you want to go to your My 4Cs, and up in this corner here is all our Microsoft um, 360 apps, and Excel is this green one. If you already have Excel on your computer, you should be able to just open up your search bar and give it a good look for, and it'll pop right up. When you have it open, you want to make sure you are on a blank workbook. It should look like this. The way that Excel works, it's really cool. Each one of these individual boxes is what's called a cell, and we use these cells to connect each other and create formulas. We can type into these cells just like we can type into any normal text box, and we use that to kind of set up what we're going to go through. So let's get started. So we have a budget of $120. That's our set budget, and we spend on two different goods, sandwiches and smoothies. Smoothies are $6 and sandwiches are $4. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to set up our Excel sheet. So each one of these cells has its own unique ID. It is set up by column and row. Column is our letter and row is our number. So the way it works is we can just type it on in, and we're going to type in what's called headers. We're going to do price, quantity, and total cost. What we're doing here is we're creating a table. We want it to look a little bit like this. So we have smoothies, we have sandwiches, we have a price of $6 per smoothie, a price of $4 per sandwich, and then we have our total. If we want to give this a highlight, we would just come over here to our font, highlight that one, make it bold. We might also want to make these things at the top a little bit bolder as they are our headers. We're going to leave these two spaces blank, and then we're going to put in what is our first function. A function is what we use to call from one cell to another and kind of do just like a normal math equation, or we might do a logic equation or something else. But each function has to start with this equal sign. This is what tells Excel that we are going to do a function. What we're doing now is we're calling to one of our boxes, and we're going to multiply it by another one. So we're calling to one cell. This is our cell that indicates our price for smoothies. And we're going to multiply that by whatever quantity for smoothies that we put into that next box. We can press enter, and then we can type the exact same thing for a different box, right? We're going to go down to our price for sandwiches. We're going to multiply that by our quantity of sandwiches. And then our total cost is going to be use this function called sum. What sum does is it is adding up to different whatever cells you tell it to add up. So sum, summation, that's addition. So if I wanted to highlight all these boxes, it would highlight them and it would then sum all the boxes together, the values within them. So right now it should look like a 0. Remember, if I go too fast at any point, you can easily just pause the video, slow me down in the settings, speed me up if you want me to as well. The next thing we're going to do in this cell here is we're going to type in our budget. Budget. And then in this one, we're going to do status. This next thing is going to tell us something cool, right? So our budget we know is $120. And this status thing, the status window here, is going to show us whether or not we are within our budget, over our budget. So we're going to type this in. This is what's called an if function. An if function is a logic function. It's saying if this is happening, and if it's true, you're going to then do this. If this is happening and it's false, false meaning it's not really happening, then you're going to display this for us. So in this case, we're saying if our total budget is less than or equal to 120, then we are within our budget. If our total spending is greater than or not less than or equal to our budget, then we are over budget. And that is false. So we've spent nothing, so we're within budget. So if we want to spend a second, we can definitely easily play around with this, put in a bunch of quantities. Um, so if I said 12 and then I said 12, look, that's right on budget. If I said 14, that's it should be this one. My bad. That one's a little messed up. Yeah, put it in the wrong place. Oops. Okay, so this is our, now it works. So if we have 14 smoothies and 12 sandwiches, that's $132. That's over our budget, right? If we had 12 of each, that was totally within our budget. If I have 72 sandwiches, that's totally over our budget. And you can play around with that a little bit. The next thing we want to do is we want to create a table of values. This is what we're going to end up using to be able to actually graph our equation. So we have smoothies, sandwiches, and then we'll have total cost. So starting in this next column, A8, we're going to do from smoothies from 0 to 20. Why? Because if we have only smoothies, the maximum you could spend on the maximum quantity of smoothies you could have is 20. Because 120, our total budget, divided by 6, the cost per smoothie is 20. The easy way to do this is if we want to do, we have a 0. We could go to this next one. We could call back to the prior and just add 1. And now it's going to be 1. And then what we want to do next is drag this box down till we reach 20. And all this is doing is calling to the cell before it. So this is A10. It's calling to A9 and adding 1. All right. Next thing we want to do, we have all the smoothies we could possibly have. We then want to use the formula to determine how many sandwiches we could have, right? Our normal budget constraint looks a little bit like this. It's the price of our first good, so the price of a smoothie, times the quantity of how many smoothies we have, plus the price of a sandwich times the quantity of the sandwiches we have. And that equals our budget, which is 120, which is what we have shown right here. To be able to solve for sandwiches, we have to work backwards a little bit. What we need to do is we need to isolate this sandwich variable by itself. So if we were doing just like a regular math equation and we had something like y equals mx plus b, that was, and algebraically, that would be when we want to isolate x by itself. To do that, the first thing you're going to want to do, and if we could draw it out a little bit, right? So if we want to get sandwiches all by itself, the first thing we might want to do is subtract this 6 times smoothies over to the other side. And that would get us 4 times our sandwiches equals 120. Sorry for the bad writing. Minus 6 smoothies. Right? From there, we want to get rid of this 4. And then we just take this and we divide this side by 4. And then we have to divide that other side by 4. And that's how we get to that equation there. All right. Next thing we want to do. We have this equation. We now need to write this equation out into Excel. So this equation here is how we isolate the quantity of sandwiches we will have. So this is equal to 120, our budget, minus the quantity of smoothies we have, times the price of a smoothie, $6, divided by 4. So what this is telling us now is that if we spend no money on smoothies, we can spend $30 on 30, we can buy 30 sandwiches. No money on smoothies, $30, 30 sandwiches. And then if we drag it all the way down, if we buy no sandwiches, we can buy 20 smoothies. The last thing you want to do is you just want to make sure that we are actually doing this right. So what we're going to do with the total cost is we're just going to plug these values into our original equation to make sure we're doing everything right. So this is just a self-check, right? All this is saying that we're doing is we're multiplying the quantity of smoothies times the price of a smoothie and adding it to the quantity of sandwiches we are purchasing times the price of the sandwich. Press enter, and each time we should be able to drag that bad boy down, and it should be 120 because that's what equals our budget. Now we want to set up our graph. So the way we're going to set up our graph is we're going to highlight smoothies and sandwiches. Move myself out of the way. We're going to highlight these two columns. So you click it and then you keep your finger on the mouse and you drag it down. Then you're going to go into insert. So you can either right click on this and insert will pop up, or you can go into this tab, insert. We want to insert and do it as a scatter. So it's a scatter with straight lines. So what a scatter plot is doing, it is plotting our 2 points and then it's inserting a little line between those 2 points. So we can tell what is what by, see down here, that 20 indicates that's where our smoothies are. Our 30 up here on this axis indicates to us what our sandwiches are, right? Because those are the places where they cross and the other is 0. We then want to go to our chart and add some elements. So we're going to press plus and we want to have titles on each side and we want to make sure we have the trends. So we said that this one over here is our smoothies. And this over here is our sandwiches. So we have smoothies and sandwiches. And then we want to make sure we give this an appropriate title. This is our budget constraint of $120. There we go. The next thing we want to be able to do is add what's called our opportunity set. So remember, our opportunity set is everything under our budget constraint that are affordable bundles that we can still afford given what our budget is, but they aren't all the exact on our budget line itself. The easiest way to do this, and especially if you're on web browser, it might be a little bit easier. It should just go to insert, go to illustrations, and go to shapes, and go down to this little one that's a right triangle. Then you want to drag and place, and I would always make it a little bit transparent. And there you go. That is our opportunity set. We can do this another way, especially if you are willing to try. So we drag that over, see it comes with it, so it'll be just fine. What we have to do is right click onto our budget constraint and we need to do the button. So we have this way if you want just the shape. If you don't want to do the shape and you want to do it the true way, you're going to do it this way. Right click, press select data. This little box is going to come up. We then need to add a new series. Do it the same exact way. We're going to call this OC because it's opportunity cost. Our smoothies is the X. And our Y value is our sandwiches. We press OK. This will pop up. It's going to be an exact line over the other one. We then need to go into a little bit over and we have to go into, chart design. Let me make this bigger. We have to go into chart design and we have to edit our chart now. We're gonna have to change our chart type. And this is where it gets a little harder in web browser because you might not be able to do this properly. You have to go over to what's called combo. We want to make our sandwiches back into our scatter with lines. We then want to make our other line we've made into the other chart. We want to make this one into a stacked area. So our original should be our line still, and our other should be a stacked area. It'll look a little bit like this, but either way you do it is perfectly fine. So if you do this or you do this, I am happy with either. And that is how you make a budget constraint in Excel. Best luck. Make sure if you need to reach out to me, you are more than welcome to watch this video as many times as you need. Otherwise, have a good rest of your day. Peace out.